every single person has an ability
Yep.
to do something great. It's just they need to see that in order for that to happen, you know. We never knew Oriana. We don't even have the ability to create a TV platform, but we believed in ourselves, you know, and we trusted ourselves, and you know, putting things in place, and then all of a sudden, magic, abracadabra, we got Oriana TV.
Boom, here we are, Vika, man. Thank you so much for making time on Sunday. I know Sundays, well, it's the day Oriana TV goes live. So one, I want to ask you a bit later, but how is Sunday for you? Is it a stressful day? But also, also Sunday is the day we, you know, want to spend with family and community. And so, bro, I just want to firstly say thank you for making time for me.
No worries, bro. It's all good. As you mentioned about the Sunday, usually a Sunday's church day for us.
Yeah.
We go to a church down in Lower Hutt. Oh, so we stay in Levin, and we're about an hour and a half from Levin to Lower Hutt. And we go to church there. So yeah, so that's how we spend our Sunday, and with family together, and yeah.
That's awesome.
Places together.
Do you put a sneaky little prayer in to make sure Oriana plays without any glitches, or?
always try to. But I mean, yeah, like I'm a spiritual person, so and now I found my walk with Christ about 5 years ago,
right?
And I believe everything we do, you know, we start off with God first, and that means like for me is putting in prayer that things go well, and you're not always gonna you know, you have the human error faults that we and then there's some stuff, especially with technology, you can't control, so you just gotta live it and be happy that, you know, because the only way we can learn is make a lot of faults or errors and just make it better the next time, I guess.
Hard out, bro. Isn't it strange, you know, life, because you have to, it's sometimes things are quite counterintuitive. You know, you have to actually make a mistake to learn. It's just when you're making a mistake, it feels like something you never want to happen. Like the whole world seems to be built on, like if you take a big brand, for example, like Nike or Adidas, they never want to make a mistake. It's like their feeling is they get one shot. And if they stuff it up, that's it. But true life is something completely different, where you can only, well, I guess you got to make the mistake and then you have to acknowledge the mistake. Maybe that's the missing piece, right? And I think that's where it gets tricky for a lot of people is, what does acknowledging a mistake look like? It's something I think about all the time, bro, you know, with stuff in the world. I think social media has a really interesting part to play in making mistakes. You know, if you make a mistake, it's like a time capsule on social media, eh? And you can go back in time and see people who they were then. Yeah, bro. So it's a real interesting, I don't know. I just find it fascinating that we can even sit here and just talk on TV, and even if we make a mistake, we're just guys trying to like make it all work, you know, which is why I wanted you on the podcast, because I don't know what everyone thinks about the background of Oriana TV and all of the stuff that's happening. Because when you look at the channel, it looks really awesome, and it is really awesome. But why I wanted to have you on the podcast is you're kind of one of a few who's really grinding it out in the background. Like one question I wanted to ask you, bro, is like, did you think you would be involved in TV? Was this your path?
No, bro. It's funny when you don't really plan your life ahead, but when it comes together, it's you're sort of in awe because, like you said, I never knew I'd be in this position. But just to explain where we are now with Oriana, I just with my journey, I have to sort of rewind just a little bit.
Let's do that.
And so I've worked on the roads, bro. So that's where I've made money to feed the kids and probably for the last, for over 10 years, I've always come back home, and one of my main hobbies and my passion is media stuff like video editing, graphic design, web design. So I'll come home and YouTube was sort of in its early stage back then, but they still had tutorials on how to do certain things. And I'll come back and watch YouTube, the YouTube channel on stuff like website graphic design. And I'll be honest with you, because back then they didn't have online subscription, and they would have those like the Adobe software, but the hacking,
allegedly.
yeah. I'll be honest, but I mean,
it's cool.
I'll download it and then start playing around with it, and I can stay up for hours on it, bro. And I never needed self motivation for it, because it was my passion. I love doing it. But at the same time, I was working on the roads, and and then I just got to a stage where I end up making my own brand called Kingdom Digital Design. And then, I had friends asking, "Oh, bro, can you create a graphic for our flyer?" And then I started picking up a lot of, guys that wanted graphic stuff and video stuff, up to the point where Pato Entertainment, not exactly Pato, but one of the guys that worked for Pato reached out and said if I can do a video promo for Good Vibes. And this was about 3 years ago. So I did that, and then obviously that went out, and then my cousin Danny, who's also known as Brother D, he's just had his 50th recently. He made the connection with me and Samson Samasoni, who is director, general manager of Umbrella Multimedia. And so we had a meeting with Samson, and I don't have a CV. I don't have a diploma in graphics or web. But all I did was I showed him everything that was on my Facebook, Kingdom Digital Design, and the guy was really impressed. And so, when I had my meeting with him, I was also talking to Clem, who just started as well with Umbrella at the time, and I said to him, "Man, I'd love to work, in this industry full time one day." And I sort of said it as a joke, but I wasn't really hinting for a job, because I already had my Kingdom Digital Design. And then I get a email the next day from Samson and said, "Hey, Clement mentioned that you're looking for a job." And I was like, "Oh, thank you, Lord." So I emailed Samson straight away. I was like, "Man, I really appreciate the opportunity, and I'm not going to say no to that." So. As soon as I got the email, I showed Chrissy, who's my fiance, and she was really happy and really stoked. And we got down on our knees and prayed to the Lord and thanked for the opportunity, because these sort of opportunities for me back then, I always had bad luck back then.
Right.
It's not until the person wants to make a change in their lives and to better themselves and for their families as well. So, and that's where we've come now to Oriana, and started off with doing website for Umbrella Multimedia, graphic design, helping out with Clem and video production, and then all of a sudden, hey, we're going to do a TV platform, and we're going to call it Oriana TV. And I'm like, "Oh, cool, sweet ass, let's do it." So that's how we got to the Oriana TV stage. And it's been a real blessing to me, myself, and I think to the rest of our work colleague as well. So
yeah, awesome, bro. Look, we'll take a quick break, but one thing I want to ask you when we're back is, here's the thing as I see it. You talked about the roads, and there's a certain amount of guaranteed security with that, right? Like, roads aren't going out of fashion anytime soon. Then you've got this opportunity over here, which requires faith, which requires us to push forward and not know the outcome. And how do people balance those? I feel like Pacifica and Māori, I don't know if this is wrong to say, but we want to choose the safe option because it's the safe option. But pushing forward is the safe option, in my opinion, because you are in control of the unknown, if you like. So stay with us, team, and we'll be back, and Vika will kick off with that. Yeah, we kind of, before the ad, we talked a little bit about safety versus the unknown versus the guaranteed, right? What's your thoughts on that, bro? Because there are mouths to feed, there are communities to that need certainty.
Yeah.
How do we articulate this? I feel like people hardly ever talk about that.
Yeah, that's cool. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a spiritual person now. But before that, I wasn't.
Right.
And even though I was brought up in church, my dad was a pastor, and he who passed away in 2006. But even though being brought up in church, in a Pacific church, we never found ourselves with the Lord. And, you know, the good thing about Christianity, it has a lot of positive, you know, and loving elements to it. And those components is to keep us in check. Those components is to help us self-control. And everyone goes through, you know, going through you know, life challenges in life, you know, tribulation. And what the Bible really teaches us is how do we self-control that? How do we take something that looks like it's going to be bad, but you still place your hope in it? You know, you still place your faith in it. Well, not necessarily placing your faith in, you know, what's going on, but you place your faith in God because you know God can deliver. But before you get to that point, you need to believe first. Because if like for me, like I said back in the days, we've been brought up and we always taught, you know, you got to believe in God. And you know, I went through a phase back in my time where I was in trouble a lot. I even went through the court system, and you know, we went. My church and the youth came and support me one time when I was at court, and they said, you know, have faith, bro. Have faith. And I knew the church and the youth had faith, but I didn't. So with them trying to, you know, uplift me with their wairua, with their spirit, and the other with their belief, I myself didn't believe in it. And so it didn't go well at court, you know, and I was sentenced in that. But I had to really, you know, dig deep to myself, because a lot of the time I was blaming the world. I was blaming, it's your fault, it's the system's fault, it's the government's fault. But not until you sort of really tune into yourself and then you start asking a lot of questions, you find that most of it was yourself. It wasn't anyone else. And so I had to retune my mind, my heart. And the way I did that, I had to tune it with God. So I was like, you know, okay, God, I don't know if you're there. You know, I know I've been brought up with you, but if you're there, you know, I really need the help. And so, yeah, so I met my fiance now, Chrissy, and she was I'm going to talk about this anyway. So she was pregnant with my first, right? And I was like really happy, and I was working hard, you know, on the roads, and I was keen to go to work too, because you know, I've got a newborn coming. And I think she went to about 3-4 months, and then you know, I was happy, and she actually rang me he said, "Oh, Hannah, I've just been to the doctors." And I was like, yeah, cool. And she was like, "I've had a miscarriage." And bro, I just, you're at work, working on the road, and then my heart just dropped, bro.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, God, and then my mind went to God straight away. I was like, I thought I actually gave you a go, bro. I actually, I put my trust and faith in you. And so I got home, and, Chrissy just come over and she gave me a big hug. And I was like, oh, yeah, I was trying to be that man and stay strong. And then I went into the garage and, I locked. Sorry, bro.
It's all right, man. We take our time.
Even thinking about it, even though it's back then, but you can still feel the pain.
Yes. And
which I meant to let go, but it wasn't nice, it wasn't a good feeling, and I wouldn't wish it upon anyone.
Yep.
And even the thought of suicide, crosses your mind, but not as much. But I locked myself in the garage, and I just poured my my heart out, and I said, and I was blaming everything back to the Lord, to God again. And I was like, God, I thought, excuse me, I thought if I place all my faith in you, all my trust, things were going to go well. So, and for some weird reason, I still did, even though that happened and that broke my heart. And I sort of persuaded myself that I need to continue on something that I started. And so, I opened up my scripture, and then you start reading things where certain characters in the Bible have gone through really bad, tough times, but they kept their faith. And so a couple of months later, I kept my faith, and I said, Lord, God, I don't want to turn away from you, and I still believe you're there. I just don't know what's happened, and I don't know what that's going to look like, but I still place my faith in you. And then a couple of months later, this was sort of an awkward one. Chrissy says, "Oh, hon, I'm pregnant again," and I was happy. I was thinking, oh, wait, God's going to do it to me a second time.
Right.
And so as the months continued, and we went and got a baby scan, and I can see baby moving. And I was like, oh, cool, trying to be happy for Chrissy. But at the back of my mind, I didn't want to set myself up to get another broken heart again, Even though it came to the birth of my child, I still couldn't believe it. I didn't think, I thought something was going to go wrong at some stage. And so even and then baby comes out, and I was like, oh wow, and I saw it, and I was like, okay, this is when something's going to go wrong. And then it's not until I held my baby in my hand, then I knew straight away, God's blessed me with my own child. And so I named her Nova, and in Latin it means new beginnings. So from that point on is when our new beginning with me and myself and my family, we started that new journey with God. And and that's when our faith has started to build up more, because even though through trials and tribulation and whatever looks unknown and something you can't foresee in the future, and even though you're planning, we've always kept our faith in it, and it makes us it makes you a happy human being. So that's just my journey from where I was and where I am now, and I'm really happy with I'm so blessed to be around the Oriana team, including yourself, Will. So it's a huge, and it's really good to be around people that has positive minds and positive goals because you feed off it, right? So it's really good, bro.
Yeah, well, and look, I feel exactly the same. I just want to acknowledge, thank you for sharing your story with us, because look, man, there's a part of this that gets recorded forever, and we can't control who sees and who doesn't.
Yeah.
But here's what I really like. I like the fact that at this time on Oriana TV or on the internet, there's an attempt here to share, an attempt here to connect. And I really do take that seriously on this podcast, even though, I'm sure it's probably one of the more lower production value shows that you see on the channel. But I hope the conversation, the feeling you get reaches through this electronic barrier, that we connect and that we connect where we need to. So, bro, it's absolute pleasure to for you to offer that. It's really awesome. So we'll take a quick break, and I'd love to come back for the last two segments. And for one segment, I was wondering if you might go back with us, right? Because I'm keen to acknowledge, like, and I'll say it carefully. There's obviously mistakes, and we all have them. And then it's how we build through that, because in the following segment, I'd like to go forward. Where are we going? And I think we can't answer the where are we going part until we really tackle the where have we come from. So, yes, stay with us, team. Okay, Vika, if we go way back, what's the story from your family? Where do your ancestors come from? How did your Wellington area, and how does that journey all fit together? How far back do we go?
Yeah, so my parents, they both come from Samoa, and they both are from the big island Savaii in Samoa. My father comes from Malaifanga in Samoa, which is on that right coast, and my mum comes from Ngātaivai, which is on the left side of the coast. And they journeyed here back in the 70s, and when they got to New Zealand, it was pretty tough back then because there were no other support, of Pacific Islanders, not as big as now. And they found it really hard, especially bringing up 8 kids. There's 7. So I've got 7 brothers and 1 sister. My sister's the oldest out of us all. And, it was tough growing up back then because we didn't really have the toys, the fancy toys, and excuse me for saying this, that your neighbor Palangis would have,
Yes.
And I remember when I was a little kid, I'd go over to my Palangi mate, because our neighbor was also my mate who I used to go to school with back then at Mount Cook School. And his name's Mark. So I used to go over, he would call up, he was like, "Hey Vika, do you want to come and play with my toys?" And I was like, yeah, definitely. And then go over, and, back then, you're really unfortunate because back then your parents couldn't afford any toys. So I'll go over, play, and then I'll come back because I'll steal one of his toys, go back. But most of our social times back then was just, back then was playing on the trees and pretending you're a Teenage Mutant Turtle and Transformers, and we were very creative back then. Whereas I see now it's, you see every single kid from 5 years old on the tablet and hardly anyone playing outside like back in the good old days, So that's where my family's come from, and they moved straight here to Wellington in a place called Newtown. So we're originally from Newtown, and then I don't know how far I should go with this, but about when I was 10 years old, we moved over to America.
True.
Yeah. So, but at 10 years old, I thought, oh, wow, we're going for a holiday. And my dad was already there. He was ministering over there, actually.
Yep.
And then we moved to the States, to a place called Carson, in Los Angeles. And then I think a year went past and we're like wondering, wow, we're still here. And so, Mum, are we going back? And I really missed home, you know. Are we going back to New Zealand? And Mum was like, yeah, I asked your dad. And then all of a sudden, you know, we're going to school there. So I went to, and it was Bonita Elementary School. So I went to 3 schools there. So it was Bonita Elementary School, then Carnegie Junior High School, and then I went to Carson High just before we moved back. So
true.
That 1 year holiday turned out to be 6 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
So I went to school there, so yeah, and it wasn't nice. It's nothing, you know, like you come back to New Zealand to our school, man. I'm telling those guys that are at college right now, you should appreciate what you got, because man, you go through security over there, you got gunshots, and I've seen it all, bro. You know,
really,
over there you get kids like you know, in the opposite gangs and you know, shooting each other in the canteen. So yeah, a lot of those happen, and it just became the norms over there. So and they'll always mock us, like they knew the Samoans that were from New Zealand just because of our accent.
Yeah,
and they'll look at us as if the way Kiwi Samoans look at Samoans in Samoa.
Right.
So we were like the, you know, oh, these guys are from New Zealand. They're from the wops.
Yeah. Which is kind of true, right? We are from, you know, yeah. But I get it, man. Wow. And so, I mean, was that tough, bro, to like navigate, or, you know, because it's like you probably have differences, just I guess not being American, but then supposedly the ones that are closer to you from Pacifica also see you as different as well, right?
Yeah, bro. Because they know you're from New Zealand, because even though you've been there for a while and you start picking up the accent, it's still sort of broken, you know, from their accent. And so even your own family were like, oh man, you know, you're from New Zealand, huh? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, oh, right. You know, and then you start picking all that up. And but like you said, it was hard growing up there because you weren't identified as a Pacific Islander,
right? Even
though you're around your family that are PIs. But yeah, it was just I think it's the mental bit around, you know, looking at the hierarchy and you know, we're better than you. That, well, I'm not saying that's what they're saying, but that's what it felt like.
Yeah, I tell you, man, like, and it's a real interesting point to pick up on, because as you know, well, I'm half Cook Island, half European. So I have never really known where I fit. And I think there's a little bit of an answer in that, is I don't fit in any one place. But it's been confronting at times to be part of Oriana, right? Because I'm like, if we say, what is Pacific Islander? I don't know if me being me is enough for us being us, you know? Yeah. But and it's why I ask people, let's go back, because if the goal was to just be the most pure, say Cook Islander or Samoan, then there would have been no need to leave. You know, the need for change is what seems to unite humanity, the pursuit of moving somewhere. And isn't it interesting that, you know, our combined Pacifica ancestors were the original navigators? That's what they did. They got on and moved and went to the new area. It's just at some point we started tying the future versions of us with the old versions of us, and kind of saying, well, you're not this and you're not that. And I don't know, man, it's been confusing me for a while. I mean, I have made kind of peace with it in my podcast space, because, you know, I said to my mum, I'm like, you know, Mum, I probably will get myself in trouble sometimes because I don't really know the proper ways to act from my Cook Island side. And I said, but I can tell you, Mum, that my intent is solid. I do only mean to connect. And I said, are you going to be unhappy if sometimes people give you bad feedback about me? And she said, no, you could be 1% and that's enough, you know? And I thought, that's interesting coming from her, because I hadn't really ever asked her about her upbringing and what it was like coming here. But man, when she told me, it's like getting sent to school on your first day not knowing English. Like this would be you'd get your children taken off you today if you put them in that type of traumatic environment, you know? I mean, you wouldn't, but that is traumatic, going in somewhere and not knowing a language. But it ended up, you know, we talked about the mistakes in the future or the pain versus the other side of that. And, you know, she became super resilient. She learned it really quickly. She mastered that English language, you know, and it's strange because, I mean, it really is strange because she gave me an upbringing which was not like that. There was no big surprises, you know, but it ended up working against me in my 20s because I was like, nah, there's no need to push, you know, and there's every need to push. There's every need to make sure that we don't sit down and do nothing, you know, there's every need to, and that's where I've landed, bro. And maybe that's where we're on a similar path is pushing forward has no guarantees, you know, there's no guarantee that Oriana or faith, you know, it is no guarantee that that has to be real, or I won't say real, or it has to work in our favor, right? You told us the example of you sat in your garage and you said, hey man, I gave you a chance. Why? And that's a really interesting question, because if you could look at it two ways. That's so unfair. How dare you? And it's hard to try and see it as anything positive. And I don't even know if it's possible too, but it's something about this idea of you keep going, you know, that's actually all you can do. I mean, look, we're getting super deep, and I don't want to try and make something positive out of something negative, but I'll take that and I'll move it over here. I've been exploring, I guess, ways of trying to unlock your mind a bit better. You know, I get really frustrated in life when people talk about mental health like it's a thing. Like it's not one thing. It's a conglomerate of things. It's something like your mind's forgetting how to talk to your body and vice versa, and to hope and dream and pray maybe. But I thought to myself, you know, if you jump in a cold water or an ice bath, something happens within you. You don't think about anything. You just think about, man, this is cold. And I thought that's an awesome little trigger, you know, of pain or sacrifice or something like that. And then I thought, well, I'd been learning recently about breathing slower and what this can do. And so what that does is it makes you feel calm. So I thought, what if you breathe slower when you're in the ice? What happens? And what happens is you get into a meditative state, which is what people talk about. Meditate's good for you, you know. And I'm like, oh, I just won't call it that. I'm just calling it breathing calm while in the ice. And I thought what's really interesting about that, bro, is it's like most things. On paper, that sounds so ridiculous. Why would you jump in the ice? We spend all our lives trying to be warm, have warm showers, under warm blankets, 2 layers of clothes, you know. But one of the truths is purposefully going in and losing to the ice, but pretending in your breathing that you're calm. And there seems to be something about, I think what I'm picking up from a lot of people I'm talking to, life is overwhelming and it is too much, and most likely we won't win, but we try anyway to win, you know, and there's something very hopeful about that. Bro, we've got one more segment. We'll have a quick break because, you know, some awesome ads coming up, team, on Oriana TV. But stay with us, and we're gonna jump into the future. I want to know where that waka is going. Okay, brother. You're good? You're good? Happy?
Yeah, bro. We're very happy. Always happy, man.
Yeah, that's cool. And me too. And I feel like, you know what I love, man, is that we don't have a script. And it's just me and you and us watching. And we're all just like, what's happening next? You know? And that's a cool place to be. It really is for me, because it's still a little bit dangerous. No one knows really what the plan is. All we know, we've got 9 minutes left, you know? And I think it's beautiful in some ways, because you're like, you know, you don't really see life as being short. You see it as being long. So we're going to do it later. But what opportunities like this provide is we've got 8 minutes 45. What are we going to talk about? So, bro, I want you to dream with me and us about, you know, what do you hope for? What do you think this journey we're currently on, where's it leading?
Do you want the short term or the long term?
I want long term. And if we have to do another segment, we'll chuck it up at our sender. Please, Clem. Sorry for it's longer this week. So Clement is he's part of the Aotearoa family too, right?
Yeah. He's the one that. So yes, I'll give you a background with Clement first on here, so just so everyone understands. So Clement's role is, which is really important for us, because he's the guy that puts all our programs, our 9-hour programs together. And so it's a huge responsibility, because if you get one of those wrong, and you got maybe 1,000 people watching on TV as well as streaming on live, you can only point that finger to one person. But like you mentioned earlier, it's when we work collectively together to make sure we get all those things right. So that's who Clement is, and who me and the good brother Will is talking about for Oriana TV. And going back to your other question is, where are we going with Oriana TV and what it looks like? Well, the long-term goal is to get it internationally. It's to take it to that international platform, but you're looking at years ahead. And that's something that our boss is not foreseeing at the moment. But you know, our boss Samson, he's got a very good, clear mind. He knows how to structure things well, and all we got to do is just work with it and just trust what he's doing, because whatever he's doing, it's working. Because you know, we got to the stage where it's now a TV platform. And we want to take on the short term now is we want to take that and try to get that to the stage where it becomes its own TV station. You know, have its own TV platform. At the moment, we're just running on Cordia, who's been very helpful, who's been very good to us, and who has been very supportive of Pacific Island TV platform. But yes, I don't know what that long term, how long that'll be. All I know is that's where we all want to get. And I'm pretty sure, our Pacific Islanders out there that are overseas, all the way to Hawaii, to even to New Caledonia, they love seeing other cultures. It's not just in New Zealand. We always seeing, Samoa, Tonga, Cook Island, most of those Pacific Island cultures, which is good. But it's also good to see, like the likes of Vanuatu, who has some good content out there as well, which is you would have seen tonight. So you've got that, and then you've got PNG. We've got all those Pacific Islands that we call Pacific, intertwined into one platform. And you imagine taking, in years from now, that and creating a TV app, so where the whole world can get access to it. And and there'll be people out there that they come across, oh, what's a Pacific Islander? I don't even know what they are. And we've got a platform for them to see, and it's it's for me. It's we all become ambassadors for Oriana TV, in that sense, and every content that's been put on Oriana TV are ambassadors to themselves.
Yes.
And providing that content to Oriana TV. So, yeah, so that's where I see. Well, that's where we see Oriana TV going, and like you said, we can't see what's going on in 3 months' time or 4 months' time. It's just people that are proud to be Polynesians, Pacific, coming together with content, and we're putting it out there, and it's working.
It's working,
and there's no sort of strategic trick to it.
Yeah. Well, and that's why, when we were talking before, I said, man, I just want you to come on because the channel looks so slick, and it is slick, but I don't want people to get the wrong impression that there's some magic algorithm happening here. There's massive hours of, you guys putting the work together, reaching out to community, doing collabs. There's massive hours that have gone into sourcing content and getting 9 hours together with the goal of pushing forward too. So it was also an acknowledgement for me because, look, I will say I'm very thankful. Most days I think about it, the fact that my break on this channel is come through just Samson basically batting for me, to say that he believes that Pacific Islanders come in all shapes, forms, how much of you are and not, but also backing us having deep conversations, and really saying to me that this is something that he wants to promote, is for a variety of guests to come through and talk about whatever it is. Because for me, I love the idea that what we're doing is not entertaining, we're archiving. We're archiving us. And history, this is closer in line for me as to what the oratal passing on of knowledge was, but now we get to do it, and we get to record it, and we get to feel it together, we get to laugh together, cry together, but be together. And I just hope that becomes the calling card of our Pacifica TV, where it's not like we're not trying to have the best well-oiled show. We're trying to get to the deepest connection as quickly as we can. And there is no competition in that. We're the fastest, we're the funniest, we are. And it's just to have that permission and the belief and the faith that given the platform, you can shine, And man, look, we got only a minute left. So I haven't asked this for a while, but I will ask you, before the podcast kind of moved into this form, I used to ask guests what blows their mind, right? And for me, it was, and you may have already shared it, but it was a moment that kind of changed how you viewed the world, or it blew your mind. Do you have a moment, bro, which if you just think for a second, really kind of changed the direction, really like physically and mentally blew your mind, where you could not see the world the same way?
Yeah. I can answer that. And like I said, it takes me back 5 years ago, where my mind was blown, but not only in the flesh, but spiritually as well. So it was two things. And there was a time where I mentioned earlier, where I was blaming a lot of things, and then I realized it was myself, and I had to redefine and reconnect my spiritual elements back to God. And from then on, everything changed. So, and what I'm saying is, the moment, and I'll say it in this term, the moment my mind was blown back then, 5 years ago, is the moment everything changed. And I'll never go back on it. It's been really good. It's been a blessing. And the family's happy, and all we can do for Oriana and for ourselves is let's just work hard. Some people say you got to work smarter. That's true, but you still got to put the hard yards in there as well at the same time, especially when you're limited with resource. But the good thing about it, the people that are on the back of Oriana have the passion for it. So we don't need 10 people, you know. Oh, actually we do, but it'll be helpful.
I'm going to give a quick shout out to Samson, who's probably watching this, waiting for one of us to say something that, you know, we've got to apologize for. But look, man, this is the journey, right? This is why we are together. And the intent's rock solid. And look, I'm with you. You know, there is strategy and all these things, but there's a foundation, and that's what's being planted and built and growing. And then from there, all the other beautiful stuff is what everyone they'll only remember that as, you know, the beautiful. But the early days that's the fun bit for me. And I was telling you on the phone that, you know, neurologically, because I've been studying the brain, it is enjoying the moment, and that's really hard for us to think about, because we want to think, if only I had, you know. But we collectively, and we did do this historically, and we need to kind of get back to that, is there is no other moment than now. And we've got to get better at getting the dopamine, which is the reward part of the brain, to say the journey you're on is worth it. And so that's the question. Is the journey you're on worth it? And I know me and you can answer that, but I challenge everyone out there. Ask yourself, what's the journey I'm on? Do I need to recalibrate? Do I need to get the people in my life to help me define that? And you can do that. This is actually something that requires a bit of openness, but also you know, a bit of trust and a bit of faith. But once you get that journey, the rest is irrelevant. The future may or may not appear as it is, but your brain needs to give you it actually needs to give you a dopamine hit for something. So make it about the journey. Make it about the pursuit of chasing something. And then we're onto a winner. It's a gift from God. I really do believe.
Yeah, you're right. And you know, can I just add on to that? We all have that ability, you know. The only difference is some people believe in it, some people don't.
Yes.
And I really, I really believe with all my heart, every single person is smart. Every single person has an ability to do something great. It's just they need to see that in order for that to happen, you know. We never knew Oriana. We don't even have the ability to create a TV platform, but we believed in ourselves, you know, and we trusted ourselves, and you know, putting things in place, and then all of a sudden, magic, abracadabra, we got Oriana TV.
Beautiful, brother. Let's wrap it here. Vika, I'd like you to give a shout out. I know everyone can follow Oriana TV because I plug it all the time. Where can they follow you? Where can they follow your journey?
I would say my Facebook page, you know, you can follow me on there, but, you know, come on, guys, it's personal. But you can follow me on Instagram. I put my stories up on there. And can I just say this real quick, Will? And the way I treat my Instagram is to the younger followers. So I try to be an ambassador of God, as well as serve for the purpose I'm with now for Oriana, and trying to inspire the good out of it. And I believe that, you know, that even though that we got a lot of negativity out there, with our ability and our belief in what we've been given from God, is we can overcome every single one of it. It's just we need to believe it, even though you can't see it, even though you can't see God, but you also can't see air, but you believe it gives you the way of breathing. So yeah, I thought I'll just add that, and I'll better stop because I'll keep going.
Well, we can do a part 2 another day. Vika, thank you, bro, for taking us on a journey. And look, I look forward to catching up with you next time.
Yeah, thank you very much, brother.